When the Crusaders assaulted and captured Jerusalem in July 1099, the struggle between Christians and Muslims in Spain had been in progress for nearly 400 years. From 711, when a mixed force of Arabs and Moroccan Berbers crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and overthrew the Visigothic kingdom, until the collapse of the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba in 1031, Muslim supremacy in Spain was unquestioned. As the seat of Islamic power was Córdoba, an eccentric location in the southern part of the peninsula, the Muslims did not permanently occupy large stretches of mountainous zones in the north. That made it possible for small groups of Christians to form the tiny, independent states of Asturias, Leon, Castile, Navarre, Aragon, and Catalonia. Clinging to the Cantabrian and Pyrenees mountains, this congeries of Christian enclaves, variously ruled by kings or counts, was kept on the defensive for nearly 300 years, as Muslim armies marched northward every summer to ravage their lands, but never to conquer them. In those early centuries, a no-man's land stretching along the Duero River from the Atlantic to the borders of Aragon separated Christian and Muslim territory, but it was many years before the Christians dared to venture southward to occupy that zone. As the Christian population increased, a gradual movement toward the Duero occurred, and the process of settling that frontier zone commenced. In the northeast, however, Muslim rule reached as far north as the foothills of the Pyrenees, until the late 11th century. After the occupation of the Duero Valley, the Christians took advantage of the breakup of the Caliphate to move into the Tagus Valley, capturing Toledo in 1085. The invasions of the Almoravids, Al-Murabitun, from Morocco soon afterward, and of the Almohads, Al-Muwahhidun, in the middle of the 12th century, put the Christians on the defensive again, however, and temporarily checked their advance. Early in the 13th century, victory over the Moroccans enabled the Christians to press forward to the Guadiana River and to capture the principal towns of the Guadalquivir Valley. By mid-century, all of Islamic Spain was in Christian hands, except the tiny kingdom of Granada, and that was reduced to tributary status to Castile-Leon. Occupying the central Meseta, the largest segment of the peninsula, the Kingdom of Castile-Leon maintained a contiguous frontier with the Muslims until Ferdinand and Isabella conquered Granada in 1492. Meanwhile, the kingdoms of Portugal on the west and Aragon-Catalonia on the east had expanded as fully as possible by the middle of the 13th century, and their boundaries would remain fixed thereafter, save for some minor adjustments. Thus, in the closing centuries of the Middle Ages, the conquest of Islamic lands remained the primary responsibility of the kings of Castile-Leon. The Reconquest. Evolution of an idea. The preceding historical sketch summarizes a long period in the history of medieval Spain that Spanish historians have called the Reconquista. The Reconquest has been depicted as a war to eject the Muslims, who were regarded as intruders wrongfully occupying territory that by right belonged to the Christians. Thus, religious hostility was thought to provide the primary motivation for the struggle. In time, the kings of Asturias, Leon, Castile, as the self-proclaimed heirs of the Visigoths, came to believe that it was their responsibility to recover all the land that had once belonged to the Visigothic kingdom. Some historians assumed that that ideal of reconquest persisted without significant change throughout the Middle Ages, until the final conquest of Granada and the inevitable union of Castile and Aragon under Ferdinand and Isabella. Nevertheless, in the last 30 years or so, historians have challenged these assumptions, asking whether it is even appropriate to speak of reconquest. Did the reconquest really happen, or was it merely a myth? If it is legitimate to speak of reconquest, then what exactly is meant by that term?